You're listening to A Different Human Dimension, a podcast about ADHD and general mental health. This podcast was produced by XYZ Eco CIC and Flow State Music. This podcast may contain strong language, so if you've sensitive ears, please switch off now. The pilot episode of this podcast was recorded over Zoom and Skype, so bear with us for the audio quality. If you'd like to get involved in the podcast, just email xyzcic.scott@gmail.com. Without further ado, here we go.
Mornings and welcome to Different Human Dimension.
There we go. We're starting a podcast. Finally, we got around to it.
There's me already going, like, conversation skills written down in front of me going, wait, count to 5 so I don't talk too much. And there I am, like, 1.
So we should probably explain, like, a bit about who we are. Kris, like, I'll let you go first. It's all about ADHD, this podcast. So yeah, Kris, like, fire on, man.
I'm now 40, but I went to get diagnosed at 35, so that was 5 years ago now. But so I pretty much want to pass on my story of that, because I'm guessing a lot of people out there's probably going through it or went through it or even went through it younger but might not understood it at the time, because a lot of the intervention I found, all they gave me the option was pharmaceutical. So when I dug deeper into that, there was other options, and that's where I'm at, like 5 years and still trying to get access to simple support and structural help with functions a 40-year-old man on his own. But I went to go and find out why I was acting differently at 35.
Yeah.
40, I'm still asking questions of about why simple things.
Yeah, so it was like, because you got diagnosed with ADHD, and mind you, because I would probably say this, I've known you for what, 5 or 6 years now? Just in like
6 or 7 years now.
Yeah, it probably is actually. I keep forgetting it's like 2020. But I know. Like you were saying as well, like with like ADHD and stuff, just like growing up from that, you kind of knew there was like something a bit, I don't know, not off, just a bit like, like different.
I questioned things from about 13, definitely. But even looking back from 13, I was like, all right, I kind of missed out that bits of school, or I missed out what people were doing, and that I didn't quite get the same thought process as what other people were doing. I kind of understood it myself, but then that I was definitely different. So a lot of social masking came into me then. So you kind of, I know what it was like in primary school compared to what I was in high school. Completely different. I know you go for puberty, all that stuff, but there was situations that I definitely, withdrew from and didn't deal with until well later on, until like 18, 19. I mean, my first girlfriend really was like at 19, right? I mean, properly. So it was like, I was a workaholic from like 13 onwards. One thing I was good at, I could do, I stuck to. And that was like, a lot of my mum's work was do with theatre and arts education stuff. So my head was stuck in there, and I just stuck by that, what I was good at, for 7 years, until like pretty much I had someone my age, she was a year older than me, but saying, Kris, this is a wee bit kind of, but I do look back in that, but I learned a lot in that 5 years until I was 24. But again, I just jumped from relationship to relationship after that to kind of function. That's a trait I learned later on, that when I looked at 35, the circumstances through diagnosis kind of, not saying led to it, but made my depression and anxiety much more, because I know I'd suffered it twice before, in my teens and in my 20s. But again, social masking and all that stuff. You're a guy, you're around other guys, you're supposed to be...
Well, that's it, isn't it? Like, what's the old phrase? Like, I don't know, like, you used to get told to man up all the time when you showed like any fucking emotion. So it's like, it's
yeah, I've heard that plenty of times. Like, I remember, but I do remember, like, getting told whenever you cried, it was like, no, make sure you know that, or it's like, you don't do that and you don't do this, and situations, and you're like, but that's someone telling you how to behave. A lot of my background, I've been working with children and adults with special needs and learning difficulties. So again, I was in work situations and social situations where my social masking wasn't needed as such, because I was still me. I was just Chris. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's that's what I was going to say. The reason why a lot of my questioning came up is because I questioned things since I was younger, and then when I got older, I still questioned the same fundamental things as well, of just why people were doing things, not what they were doing, but why were they doing it. And they would ask another question after a question. It was like that bit that I realised socially was unacceptable as a grown man, kind of blurting out things in the middle of conversations. And you kind of learnt that from being you would have your partners around you looking at you going, giving you a roll of the eyes going, oh, and I was like, oh, right, I'm not supposed to say that. Do you know what I mean? I would realise that, or I would have certain friends that would just go, all right. But I wasn't being aggressive, I wasn't being angry, I wasn't being rude, but I was just asking maybe a question people wouldn't ask socially. I would say socially, the social norm. But I was just inquisitive.
And do you find that you notice that amongst your friends group?
Yeah, you realise it when you watch a lot of your peers act differently. And I had seen a lot of people from high school that since for about 10 years I'd been moved away different places and all that stuff. But when I arrived back, I could see the change in them and their lifestyle and just their pace, just everything there. And it was actually a couple of guys a year or so younger than me. And when I was 35, now this is the bit that got me to go for diagnosis. I walked in a pub. I won't name any names in this one, right? But I walked in a pub and a few people I'd not seen, 7 or 8 people I'd not seen for a few years. I was like, oh, they're here, or they're there. And everybody could recognise me still.
Yeah.
But I walked in this pub and I got a pint and I was just standing there, and I remember I'm 35 at the time, and I'm standing there and there's people from different age groups from like high school, but they're all, do you know what I mean? They're going grey. They're like a bigger waist now and all that stuff, right? Now, there's another bit there I'll tell you in a moment about losing weight, because I've lost a lot of weight over a short period of time. But I was arrived in here and I could see these guys looking at me, and I was chatting away, and one of them said, oh, are you still a bit, and you can see what I'm doing there, he kind of flickered his eye out to the side,
kind of a wee bit twitchy, like a wee
bit glitchy, kind of, right? And I was like, well, I don't know what you mean. And then basically the other 3 of them were around him. I knew one of them from school as well, and him, and there was another guy I didn't really know, right? But I was chatting away to them. 10 minutes later, they were like, Chris, you're just like what you were like when you were 15, mate. And I went, what do you mean? I went, you can go to the doctors and get stuff for that nowadays. So I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I went, you're just like, you're talking like you're like, I mean, like I'm talking right now. I talk a lot. I don't realise I'm talking a lot. I'm realising I'm talking because I can see myself now in the video clip. But you said you're talking like you're in amphetamines. You're talking like you're on speed. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm just talking like I do, because I did a lot of my work. I was taking classes or groups of kids or birthday parties or clubs or a lot of different things that were like high energy and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I was still doing it. I mean,
as well, you know.
Yes, but I didn't really realise what CAM was, right? And but this guy was just like, you're on something, mate. Because like the 3 of us and 2 of them, right? One of them was a neuroscientist and one of them was a neurologist, and the other one was a sports scientist, and they're all in the 30s. They're all doing their professions, but they all said to me, mate, we're on base tonight and you're going faster than us. If you're not on anything tonight, you're still like you were when you're 15. And I went, I was honestly confused, because I'd not seen people that I knew when I was younger for about 10 years, really. And I was like, right, I thought I was excited. I was like, and I went outside and I was chatting away, and I was chatting with some other guys I knew better at school, and they were like, oh, you've not changed a bit, Chris. Like, and I went, what? And it dawned me a bit more. But these guys are all medical professionals. Well, within their, I mean, they've all studied science and that. They're all in their 30s, and they all looked at me like I was the hyper kid in, like, I mean, in fucking high school. Oh, in primary school, like the kid you would go, right, get him and Ritalin. I was like
coke or speeders or something, but like.
Well, I just got my 2 kids sorted out. Well, they're like, I mean, they were both like 12 and 11 and 15. I mean, they're both like old enough. I'd already brought them up for 9 years. I'd started a business. I was knackered when I worked in that pub. I was going for a quiet pint, saying hi to folk. I was not hyper. I think I'd smoked 2 joints as well before I arrived in. Do you know what I mean? 2 blunts.
take the
I
edge
walked
off.
in and just went, yeah, okay, yeah. It's like I was using them like equivalent of cigarettes because I was off cigarettes then. And I walked in and these guys thought I was on, stronger stuff than they were.
So you mentioned about going to get seen at the doctors. How did that go?
Now, a couple of weeks later, I'd seen them over a couple of them over the time when I'd been back in the city, and I'd been going to the doctors for other reasons, for like family reasons and all that stuff, right? But I'd been visiting the doctor, and I could see the doctor looking at me in a certain way, kind of like, because I rabbit on. But anyway, these guys went and said to me that you should go to the doctors because there's like stuff, because what you smoke, like there's stuff the doctors can give you these days that they make you calmer, mate. If that's what you are, I think you've got you're on the spectrum somewhere, mate. So I booked an appointment separate. It took about 3 weeks to go and see them, and it was drawn on from that first night I met them in the pub. And a couple of weeks later, I'd carried on talking to them, and they'd seen what I'd smoked and seen how I was cycled, and I did all the stuff I did. And they're like, mate, you really should go to the doctors, mate. They could probably help you. So they told me, I sat down with the GP after 3 weeks. I sat down with her, and she looked at me, and she was like, right, I've got this survey here to go and read you through and just answer the questions. And I did best I could. Well, I'd been answering I could have. I was completely frank and honest, because I've been sitting there for the last 4 months going in and out doctors' offices for several family reasons. Right, and now, so I was aware, I was just completely open and frank with her. And she went, right, I'm going to refer you to the community healthcare team here, because I think you should go for a diagnosis. I think you'll be on ADHD, autism, Bob. And she said a couple on the list of me going, whoa, a second here. I was just thinking I was maybe having when my mates had said this to me, I think I was like midlife crisis. I was 35, I don't know. I was going, what is this? I was like, no. She was referring me to this, but they said it would take me 10 months to go and see someone. Right, so I was like, right, okay, in the middle of this, I was running a business. I think I knew you knew this point. And then basically there's a sharp, long story short, basically, I ended up over on the West Coast seeing a doctor over here, a GP over here, knocking on the door and basically going, look, I need to see someone because I'm now not staying over on the East Coast. I've got this appointment, it'll be another 3 or 4 months' time, at least 5 months' time. I need to see someone in the mental health team because I know there's something up, but there's like something I'm dealing with, depression, anxiety, or like I'm not in a good place, on top of I've got an underlying thing the doctor said to me a few months ago. I really want to understand what I'm dealing with.
And did you get much help from the doctors?
So the GP, again, name names or not? No, don't worry. There's a public service ombudsman into that there. This GP, she went and said, because I wouldn't say I was suicidal, I had to go and stand out in the reception of the GP's office and basically have an emotional breakdown, crying away on the reception phone, because she wouldn't phone them herself because I wouldn't say the word suicidal. Now,
so she made you call someone like a specialist in the actual doctor's office? In front of
no, not the doctor's office, out in the waiting room in the reception area.
Yeah, like in front of everybody.
Yeah, because I didn't have a mobile phone or anything at all, and I'd stand there. So this grown man standing there, and people in the waiting room looking at me. Now I was concentrating on this phone call, reading out the things I jotted down from the doctor in Edinburgh, saying what I'd been referred for to this person in the mental health team, because I eventually got through to a number like this person on this, and that guy, what a legend. He said, look, I can hear already, this is not a crisis one, this is a community health team. I'll come down and see you tomorrow exactly where you are, and I'll book it in an office for you. He came at 11 o'clock the next morning. That night I did not sleep. I was up going, right, how did I tell the time? It was like, I didn't have a phone or anything, so I was like listening out for fucking all sorts of things. Mad night. I had all my stuff for my business in a garage, a big lock-up garage, which I also had a mattress in, so I'd slept in there, but there was a clock up on a church tower up the road from it, that I keep on going out and checking. It was going down.
For the time check, so you weren't late.
Yeah. But I knew I'd get woken up by like the noise of the things round about and the cars going and that, but I made sure I wanted to be there by like 10 o'clock, I'd be there down there. When I arrived in that office, the guy was like, right, And he could see straight off that it was this guy that, now I look back, this guy with ADHD, autism, mental health, I mean, as in total underlying issues, trying to explain a situation he was in and going for that bit. But see that guy, he said, I'm going to put you onto the referral team here. Now, it took them I ended up moving into a homeless shelter at that point, but it took them another 3 to 4 months, me seeing the team up there to go and diagnose me through, to go, right, you've got ADHD, just like that, and we're going to offer you pills. And that was the only options they would give me. Now, the whole bit there, I've got the whole what's happened in between that to now. But that was in the first 4 months of diagnosis. But when I read up on ADHD, when the psychiatrist said to me, I went, right, I'm going to read up on it. It always usually cross lines with other things. So that's why I asked him, can I get properly diagnosed? Psychology, psychiatry, can I see? That was 18 months of fighting through a system. And I mean, I wouldn't stop rabbiting on about it. Do you know what I mean? I had nothing else in my life to go and take care of. My business shut down. I had no house or home to look after. I had no family. I just went for this year and to find out this at 35. So that I know how difficult when you see when I started reading the articles and hearing articles about 7 or 8 years to get diagnosed, all this stuff, I'm like, holy shit, that's because other people have had to go and, do you know what I mean, work for a living, come back in and that. Well, they wrote me off because on top of that, I was suffering from depression and anxiety. Now, that's something separate from my underlying conditions. Now, if they could help me actually with the likes of what we'll discuss over it, the things I can see that what helps myself, and hopefully we'll hear from other people and what helps them, non-pharmaceutical routes, because I know pharmaceuticals is a last intervention with things, I think, but really honestly, I would like to see some of these parents take these tablets before they give them to their kids and see how it affects them.
The pharmaceutical route itself, especially within within the NHS and kind of the way it's geared towards, there's the mental health services are really stretched thin, and some of them just aren't really good. So as you say, they'll just pump you pharmaceuticals when you look at them.
After 5 and a bit years of fighting through this system that's supposed to be there to go and when your lowest ebb of mental health, because everybody's got their mental health to look after, their lowest ebb of it, you knock on the door, you ask for that assistance. They say, we're not going to help you. First of all, they say they weren't going to help you until you're suicidal. And then, on top of that, all they'll offer you is pharmaceuticals. It's because you can make a profit out of the pharmaceuticals. Now, it's not the doctor's fault, but a lot of them have been trained in ways that they're only looking at it in a way of how can we intervene with pharmaceuticals, not holistically, how can we look at this, how this way, because a lot of these kids are screaming and shouting. Now, there's a whole element, I want to do a whole talk about that, but it's because they're screaming and shouting because they're trying to understand an environment that's not meant to be, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially for kids as well, as you say, holistic stuff, not just freaking pharmaceuticals, but doing things that are creative, and exercise and shit like that, like yoga and all that stuff that you don't have to take.
Well, it's different ways to go and express yourself. Now, as an adult, I can say myself, for 9 years, I tried to almost step into the reality world of, right, I'm supposed to have 2.4 children, sit there, married life, and live this. You can see my ex and blah, blah, that I changed a complete... I worked for 6 years for someone for the first time in my life at 26. First time I'd ever worked for anybody else. I had a couple of hotel jobs and all that stuff when I was younger, but the rest of the time I'd been working. Do you know what I mean? It was mental for me doing that. But that few years, it was condensed down to work, weekend, all this. No, I just couldn't get it. I was bursting at the seams all the time. But I had to do something different. I've had that for 40 years. I don't know how depressed I would be.
Yeah, well, that's it. You've got to. I'm kind of the same. I've been lucky enough to never. I've had one proper job. You know what I mean? I say a proper job, a 9 to 5, and I've always found a way to work for myself and just hustle money and get by. I'm not loaded or anything to get by, because that's, especially when it comes to mental health. I've
been in a dark hole, but I've been trying to access support and services that's supposed to be out there to go and support us, that weren't there, and that's where I said, right, well, at least we can get a platform to express ourselves, because I said to these guys, the psychiatrists, psychologists, I said to them 5 years ago, look, what you're telling me, I've got to do something what I did back when I was 17 and form a creative environment where I used to run an art centre over in Edinburgh years ago as well. And
so like they're basically saying that
I said, that's the kind of place I need. And you're saying there's nothing out there for that. All we can offer you is pills.
Or start it all yourself and do it all yourself, but you're there for getting help with your mental health anyway, so it's just like 99% of people wouldn't do that.
All they can offer you for mental health, right? All they could offer are on paper for adults with ADHD until 2018, March 2018, all in the NHS they could do, and this is down in England, like the nice services, the nice ones, but Scotland follows suit. All they would do until 2018 was offer pharmaceuticals. That's why they refused me to go and see psychology until after 2018. I was diagnosed in 2015.
You have to wait 3 years unless if you're not
my
going to take...
appointments for the psychiatrist was sitting there going, look, when am I see psychology? Oh, I'll put you in a waiting list. And it was a locum. They used to come from Edinburgh, see me over here and go, oh, are you still here? Are you still not seen anybody yet? I went, no. I would phone up their waiting list. Oh, you're not on the waiting list. And I would just be fobbed off the system, round and round the system, because on their what they would do for adults for that, but they changed that in 2018. This is 2 years on. Right?
Yeah.
More than 2 years on. And the access to the psychology bit, there's a whole other rigmarole over here. So I eventually got out to see psychology, right?
Yeah.
And I sat there with them, and they were sitting there, well, how traumatic it's been for the last couple of years going through diagnosis. They reckon I should go through the complaints procedure to get a bit of closure. That's a whole other 2 years. They're sitting there, and I'm saying, well, could you not book me on cognitive behavioural therapy? I've read this up, I've researched this up. That's what. Yeah, but we've got no way to refer you to here. There's no services over here to go and refer me to. Now, I sat there for 2 odd years going through that psychologist, going like that. I met a partner during that period of time. There's a letter I'll let you read out and see that there. She read it was like typical living with me, and it was. Do you know what I mean? It was. I'm happy. She said she was happy sharing that as well. But it's an ex-partner. We were together for a good few months. She went into a few meetings with me, mental health ones with professionals there, and she was shocked at the treatment they had with me. And again, it was all down to, why aren't you taking your tablets, sir? She wanted to write a letter, and she wrote a letter of complaint to them as well, on top of the one I had there. And it was like, this is a grown-ass woman that's like, no, she's balanced, she's good-minded, she does well for herself. She's sitting there, and she was like, this is shocking. And I went, yeah, honestly, I've been doing this, you've been going through this for 3 odd years. I ended up going private to see cognitive behavioural therapy, which this guy was really good with me, helped a bit, but the pressure of affording that, I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, so for this podcast, Chris is part of loads of different kind of ADHD groups on Facebook. We decided to write a wee post and ask people from just the ADHD community, I guess, like what we should be chatting about, and there was hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people that just commented in all these groups with loads of good ideas and loads of really touching stories, which we'll be chatting to some of those people over the next couple of episodes. But one of them that came up was kind of life hacks and things like that. So Chris, for someone that's living with ADHD, you know it better than anyone. What do you have any life hacks?
Well, no, I was going to say, when you say no, I know better than anybody for me, right? For everybody's got ADHD, they've got their own wee bits and pieces, But when you asked me this, Kyle, when you asked me this, Kyle, when the bit when you say about life hacks, the first thing that came in my head was alarms. Now, I've not been a massive adapting to phones straight off and all that stuff, and I was anyway, way off a tangent, but was having alarms on my phone. Okay. Or times, it's more about the timing things. It's putting things into blocks of things. Like, if you've done that, you get that done. You get this done. It's like we don't have that lineal filter on our heads, I think. I don't know how to explain it as an adult. Like, you guys just do goes right, this to this, that. It's see in my alarm, if I looked at my phone right now, which I can't because we're using this to record and so on, right?
Aye.
But on my phone there, I would go through from this morning I would have woke up, it was get Buddy out, that's my dog, right?
Yeah.
Life hacks, that's one, get a dog, right? Okay. The what you call it, befriend a dog, at least befriend a dog anyway. But that's the best life hack for anybody. But the alarms, is I've got Buddy, then I've got myself to feed myself, Like, now I do need to slip a couple more in there. Now, I used to have one with someone I met online that was a good friend, and we're a bit of a relationship there. We chat away, and we both had ADHD. She had Asperger's as well, and we were going through this, and we tried to help each other with alarms, this joint alarm system thing. Like, but we're both in different time zones, so it was quite difficult too. But it was just even like brush your teeth, have a shower. Now these are things I've not got down my list yet because I'm living my own, and these are simple things I don't get a chance to go and talk to someone about. This is things that the CPN used to help me with and all that stuff, which I don't have that support anymore. But even if you change a slight bit of your life, your whole filter can go, but you can readjust it from readjusting. I'm saying these alarms, these it's like calendar. It's just
reminders to do stuff, basically.
But see, when you think, oh, well, school and timetable must work, and you're like, well, look, it doesn't. That's for the masses. And our timetable might have to be smaller chunks and different sizes and different shapes, and it makes sense to us. It might not make sense to you, but we'll get A, B, and C done through maybe going through X, Y, and Z, and right through all these different things in the alphabet, so we know why A, B, and C is there and why we're getting A, B, and C done, right? But the alarm bit there, it keeps me in track even to get to lunchtime. Going, I've got to lunchtime, I better eat. You know what I mean? But I've been hungry for ages, actually. And I went, all right, I forgot that. Because my body might be telling me hungry, but it's not filtering into my brain that I'm supposed to be getting the food ready for myself. Now, listen, I can't go, right, life hack, have kids around you. But see, when I suddenly had 2 kids in my life, at 2 and 6, and I was like in my mid-20s, just suddenly, bang, 2 step kids. That chaos in a way, with all that bit there, that structure and that, I was like, wow, it's made for this. Do you know what I mean? But before that, I've been working through schools or working through educational systems of not being able to function in them, but I was functioning after school things, or I was functioning the birthday party to a lot of them. But again, your timetable, your regiment and these things, you think it's chaos. I've done 10 birthday parties a day, both days of the weekend for like years. Right? I've done over 7,000 birthday parties, 25 kids coming in, hour and a half. Well, I happened to get regimented to go and food and all that stuff. That wasn't chaos for me having 2 kids in the house. But
it's like more of a schedule to work from.
See, living on my own, that was chaos for me, right? So if I'd put an alarm for doing the dishes, like get them done in 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Constant reminders.
These things, it's these constant reminders and things. The phones can't help, but then you become stressed about worrying about your phone. So I would say I need to get something different that's not my phone, that's just doing timers for me, that I can set them for.
You put it like in a really good way. Like once you were telling me like your brain is like 27 different fucking brains within it, just making different thought patterns. And I'm sure people can relate. Like
if you imagine this one here, right? With the doctors, there's one quote you can get from different A.D.H.D sites and all that. They say 23, 25 TVs and that, right? One of the psychiatrists said to me, Chris, on average, your brain's going about 23 times faster than the average brain. Now, if you imagine how delicate and how intricate the brain system is and all this wiring is, and people suddenly can learn languages here and all these different elements people can have and all these different things. Now, speed it up. And you've got to try and filter out what's coming out of my mouth right now, right? And I've got to filter out that. So I understand the chemical balance before is completely different. Because what I'm on sitting here right now, I'm medicated on THC right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm sitting here right now so I can coherently make sure I'm concentrating on this thing, right? Okay, and it's that there's helping me concentrate, but it's not dumbing me down to one. That's what them methamphetamine hydrochlorides, the crystal, one chemical degree. I might be slightly wrong with that, but almost 1 chemical degree away from crystal meth. That's it was Concentra XL. I'm not trying to advertise for them, but Concentra XL, they gave me that, and high dose of that there. Now it made my brain go down to one brain, like as in you guys. It numbed me like that way there, but it made me feel like equivalent of. Remember, I hadn't taken any of this stuff until I was 35. It made me feel like I'd smoked like a really heavy stone of a quart or something, or like a really heavy drink of like Guinness, like you're really like drunk. It was like really down to like lineal kind of thought, and it was wow. I was like, for me at 35, I was going to go. I just went through a divorce, blah blah. I was in different life circumstances. I'm sitting there going, well, this could be dangerous. I could be on this every day if I wanted to, right? But I could function as in people could tell me something, I'll go and do it, right, okay, do that. But I wasn't functioning like me. No one would recognise, people would think I was like drunk or stoned or stuff on that stuff, drunk or stoned. They would have thought I was drunk or stoned in that stuff. I wasn't me. Now, I understand when I've had THC, I'm down to about 5 grains going at once, but I can cope with that. See, when I'm not, and I'm trying to do something lineal, right, without someone else in the house or someone else around, and that's where the dog comes in handy too. I'm chaos to myself. It's like them. I'm sure if I'm trying to do dishes, I can end up trying to get the washing machine done. Then I'll start wiping the counters and all this. And next thing I turn around and go, the water's got cold from the dishes because I'm upstairs hanging curtains I was supposed to do 2 months ago. Do you know what I mean? It's that ridiculous things that, as an adult, you just add to the more spinning plates, to the spinning plates you can cope with. But the more you put on it, we can deal with more chaos. But remember, our cam might be that, but your cam might be that. But we still need a recharging point. Now, sometimes that comes from some sort of, do you know what I mean, a creative release in some way. Do you know what I mean? It has to be found to have that balance. This is one of the outlets we talking. You can't always make up your mind where your competition started and finished.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you get muddled.
Yeah, so when I was coming across to yours, and you were like, you'd made some like soup and stuff and like things like that, and but like, as you say, like living on your own can be quite difficult just by way of the brain. Can't remember, someone came round to drop like some logs off for the garden or something, and then I knew you'd forgotten but like leaving things like just the soup cooking away, living on your own.
You got reminded me of that now. See that there? If I fixated on that one there, I would cook again in my own house. Yeah, I mean, you tell them what I did. What did I do? I ran outside to go and get pallets in or something in for the garden. I'd left fucking
just soup bubbling away, but I'd noticed, so I went and stirred it and like served it up. But like, if I wasn't there as well, like you'd be outside.
On a gas stove though. On a gas stove.
Yeah. So
I was away out on a fucking wonderland out in the garden, going, this will measure up well, and I forgot the soup was on.
The sort of like tangent thing as well, right? So like, if you just, things crop up and then you just forget like what's happening like beforehand, you would have remembered, but it's like, oh shit, like you know. But
that time the kitchen's burnt down, you know what I mean? Smoke alarms went off for that, you know what I mean? These things here, I've run the bath over a few times, not in this house, not in the old house, because I had a flat downstairs as well, but this is a wee 2-bedroom house, so I've gone upstairs, so I always set alarms when I'm running the bath.
Aye, so totally, just to remember.
Now, but see the bath upstairs, you can ask my brother or my mum on that. I must have let it overflow about 4 times. Like, honestly, I don't even know what I did in between. I might have started playing a computer game, the SNES or something. Way off with that, and then next thing you sitting downstairs having tea and that, and the drip, drip, drip on the dinner table, and we're going, look upstairs and go, Chris, did you run a bath earlier? And I'm running upstairs like at 7 o'clock at night. I started at like at 4 o'clock or something when I came back from playing football or something. Do you know what I mean? I'd been running for hours. Do you know what I mean? It was like, there was a couple of bathrooms in the house. It was like, that's the thing, I'm glad there's only one bathroom in this house, because I can time running a bath. But it's stuff like that you don't realise when you've got other people in the house though. They'll go, what are you doing there? All right, you know what I mean? There's always interaction.
Yeah.
But if we're in a tribal setting, people would remind us, oh, by the way, you got around that. You know what I mean? If we're in tribal settings. But we've been taking that away. The community settings have been taken away in that sense. But put us in a setting of, this is a sterile environment. For me, it's a sterile environment living in a house. I'm not there on my
especially on your own as well. Like, if you know, like, it'd be quite difficult.
It's mad.
Exhausting.
Yeah, that's just
like.
It is. I can find myself getting to like 6 o'clock at night, and I'll get the one thing I've got in routine over here. It's got a guy that walks his dog, that gets along with my dog, that walks every night. At least once a day, he'll take the dog over to the same park I do. So he'll give me a text. It's like 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock most nights, right? But see that there, I'll get to that bit of the day and go, oh my God, I've got that fucking far in the day. Fuck for that. Have I fed myself? Have I got that done? Oh shit, I've not had a shower yet, have I? Shit, I've not had a shower. You know what I mean? And then I'll go for the shower and think it's the start of the day again, right? It's these kind of strange sensations you do. See with brushing your teeth. I want to find a way. This is something I'm going to find out for some people. If they've got calming toothpaste, right? It doesn't taste the lavender and all that stuff, right? Because the minty toothpaste in the morning totally wakes me up, right? See if I do that at night time. I'm so scared of brushing my teeth. I want to brush my teeth. But see, the toothbrush is a nightmare for us guys because it's a big weakening sensation. It's a big sensation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But see the bits there, like numbing yourself on these pills. I would like to see people go and take these things, because see the next day when I woke up off these pills, you woke up like you've never had a hangover or a come down in your life like it. It was like a bag of cement had been poured in my head, right? And I couldn't function without them then. Now that's the scary thing for me.
Highly addictive.
I was on for 3 odd months on them. It took me 8 months to come off them properly. It was horrible. Now you can imagine putting your kids on some substance like that. How about you take them yourself first? Okay, and I was 35 before that was the only thing they would offer me for 3 years, and they still haven't offered me non-pharmaceutical intervention. I mean, cognitive behavioural therapy, anything at all like that since, right? And again, my first appointment with the psychiatrist, I was sitting there, and within 10 minutes, it was, how are you feeling? You know what, I don't think I've slept for a month. I don't think, I've been through a lot of things, big up people in the family, all this stuff, right? And I was like, look, I don't think I've slept for a month, mate. I could do with sleeping for a week. And I went, right, and before he said anything else, he started writing on his pad, and I thought he was writing notes. No, he pulled it off and went, you can take that to the chemist when you go today. And it was sleeping tablets.
More pharmaceuticals.
Before we'd ever, and he knew I was there to go and start doing the diagnosis of ADHD.
Just pump pharmaceuticals to you. Well, that's it. It's profitable, isn't it?
I said I could do with sleeping for a week. I said, I don't know if I've slept for a month, but I could do with sleeping for a week. And his answer was, there's sleeping tablets. Like, with no history, nothing like that. And just went, there we go. That was the start of my journey getting diagnosed. Now, thank goodness there was a nurse. He wasn't a psychiatric nurse, downstairs in the homeless shelter. Now, he said, and he was a legend there, and I will give names in that sense. My whole thing I'll print out and no bother at all. But he said to me when he knew I was going to be going through, he said, mate, I'll make an appointment every morning to come down and see me if you want, because I think you'll need it, mate, because what they'll say and do be up there, it'll leave you questioning a lot of things, so you'll always be able to come down and see me in the day. I went, cheers, mate. And I didn't realise how much that meant a lot, but it's so much, man. That saved my life over that 4 months.
Yeah, because you knew the kind of system and how it fucking works already.
And there were a couple of good people here as well. Worked not for the council, but for a charity for the council, that basically told me what the benefit system was, this, that, and other. And basically, if you put someone's brain like mine, I'm going to find the flaws in it. It's not finding the flaws in it to use that, but I brought these up with them. And honestly, see the assessment system I went through? Hell on earth. Now, the complaints went up that, and I wasn't out to go and complain. I've never been in benefits in my life. But sitting there and taking that from me, that from me, and that from me, as in what the doctors told me that I would never I wouldn't get, and I wouldn't understand. Not as in benefits, not as in drugs or that stuff, but how my brain was functioning. God, that left someone at my age going, oh my God, yeah, I can see why I can't drive. I can see why I don't drive. I can see why I don't. Do you know what I mean? I've done this, I've risked that. Yeah, and I don't read. I mean, I can't read and write properly. And then they sat there and go, right, there you go, there's lumps of paper. So these two people really helped me going through that stuff there. But it took me finding a private landlord to go and get the first flat I got there, to get the help kind of in place with the CPN there, helping me get to the appointments with the psychiatrist. But the psychiatrists keep them fobbing me off when you're not seeing psychologists, there's pills. And I went, right. And eventually I said, right, I'll take your pills to a certain extent. But that
that's something that kind of came up a lot from these groups as well, was a lot of touching on the kind of pharmaceutical side of it and being diagnosed and whatnot. We'll probably go into that in later episodes, because we want to get some people on from these groups, because some are really interesting stories and stuff like that, so the pharmaceutical thing as well, you've had a bit of a shiter with it, and a lot of other people have, especially in the UK.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying, life hacks. So I want to keep the ups. It's easy. There's ups in this as well. There is ups to ADHD, but again, a big factor is about having a creative environment. Yeah, and that doesn't mean paintbrushes and all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's one story I do want to, and we'll hopefully get them on. And it was, again, there's different elements people excel in, right? And people look at I mean, your Phelps and all that stuff, all these famous names and that. But there's a young guy going doing go-karting. Right. Okay. And again, I don't know if we'll use names or not, but it's like Jensen Jowett. or his dad contacted us basically, and there's a story there that would love, like, you see that there, he's found the environment of that, the speed, the bit that bit there, that's a release. Now, at the times when I was younger, I had a theatre company my mum was like running. You know what I mean? I was around art centres. I had this creative release. Then you put this in a sterile environment in schools, and of course I'm going to run riot. Of course I wasn't going to accept the way things is. That, you know what I mean? But they just thought, I mean, they did challenge on certain bits, but again, back in the day, my mum was in denial. Well, that's another whole point of this as well. See later on is how families can deny access to support through denial of the actual conditions themselves. They might have taught their adult child, or like their child right way through to adolescence, like as their adult children that might actually recognise it through friends and other siblings or other relationships or fallen relationships, because they don't see what's behind closed doors, or they don't see things away from that emotional contact they've had so close to them when they've been younger, and they've been socially conditioned. Nothing wrong with that, but socially conditioned to socially mask, right?
Yeah, and then taking that further forward in life and just having people not really understand your situation, so then you've got to socially mask and kind of move on that way, you know?
But also the thing is, see if you pharmaceuticalise that kid, right? And there's so many stories I hope they're out there people will tell later. The pharmaceuticalise that kid, when they get to 16, 18, whenever they get the choice to take them tablets or not, and they come off them, what's left?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, as you say, it numbs your brain.
There'll be good and bad stories. Sometimes it will help chemically balance that kid throughout their teenage years or whatever, but it's like chemically castrating the person. But see, when that person's released, I wonder how many stories, because I know personally quite a few stories from people around, not from myself because I didn't take them when I was younger, but see the ones I know that have came off them and they became dependent, said, I got over my A.D.H.D, they told me I grew out of it, it's not an adult thing. And then later on in life, they're dependent on drugs, alcohol, coffee, work. Yeah. They're all these different things, but believe me, they're not balanced.
Yeah.
Because they're balanced themselves to a different thing. And a lot of them will be through amphetamines and cocaine and all that stuff as well. You'll learn a lot of people out there will be doing that or did that in their 20s, maybe into their 30s. Remember, there's different chemical changes that happen to see as well. What happens is we'll have them later. Okay? It's like kind of later on, right? So my chemical balance might be at my teens still, right? Right, and then what will happen is my things in my adolescence and my 20s might not come until my 50s or 60s. You know what I mean? So that's what I was saying. I've watched some of my peers grow older in ways that I have not, and I'm still going, hey! Do you know what I mean? Still hyper.
Yeah, for sure. There's lots and lots of good stories. I mean, even after we posted in the groups, Chris, we had so many people get in touch. Huge broad age range as well, of people from 3, 4, 5 and 6 years old with their kids being diagnosed with ADHD, all the way to people up in their, I think we had someone in their late 80s being diagnosed with ADHD as well. So lots of stuff to get through there, but as you say, it's a very broad age range.
They say hereditary and all this stuff as well. There's a lot of people, the terminology didn't come around until the 80s and 90s, right? But there's research done out there now that they can look into kind of histrionics of it. There's some relation and hereditary to this, and the difficult conversations people might have had with parents once they get diagnosed. Mm-hmm. Because some parents, I've read some stories out there that came not just back to us, but before I contacted you, Kyle, when I've been reading up on it myself, before like the Facebook groups I was in, and one of them, I'm sure, I'm going to call out here if someone's out there, that they actually got diagnosed from taking their grandchild. Their grandchild went, and the parent was liaising with the grandparent, and the grandparent ended up getting actually diagnosed at the same time.
Yeah, that's pretty mad. Yeah,
that. Yeah, I mean, it was like it not just skipped a generation, but the parent got diagnosed and the grandparent at the same time. Because again, the terminology wouldn't have been out then. So there'd be 3 generations diagnosed in one go of a family. You could see the traits there. I mean, people probably would have seen in their grandparents or their parents or somewhere there. There's one of them that are like, and I remember there's 3. When they say ADHD, there's attentive, inattentive, and combined. Now, I've been diagnosed with combined, so it doesn't mean that it means I brush between the kind of both of them there, but there are stories from both sides that will be frustrating for the other sides as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what here, because some people diagnosed with ADD or A.D.H.D, because in America they say different terminologies, but see, when A.D.H.D comes, it comes in different many shapes and forms. So you'll have people that are a lot quieter than me with A.D.H.D, because I can be a lot quieter too. I will forgive myself for that, but the other ones are there that they will be silent and then burst. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so that's us coming up to 45 minutes on the podcast. We should probably stop chatting and let people get on with it.
I might be known for waffling on that, but yeah, a couple of things I just wanted to hopefully tie it up with a wee bits there was, it's not just like a lot of people hear ADHD and just go, oh, it's the little hyper boys in class, get them in Ritalin, or they see them having the tantrums in say supermarkets or whatever. It's not just a little boys thing. It's in all different shapes and forms. So we want to hear the perspective from like all genders, all ages, all backgrounds, because the female perspective of this is a big thing as well, to go and get a chance to hear the voices of as well. And obviously myself and you, Kyle, we can't really speak from that point. So
no, not at all.
Hopefully we can get some of the community we're hopefully building through talking about these things. We can share some of our experiences, and through that we're trying to organically see how the format of this will grow. We hope to have some music and input from you guys as well, of from your life hacks to your stories as well, some interviews and all these bits and pieces. See, again, I'm waffling now, but yeah, I hope to see you next time, and like, if in doubt, happy dance it out.
Yeah, spot on. So we'll see you guys next time, and as Kris says, the whole point of this is to sort of foster a community and sort of chat about mental health, and specifically ADHD on top of that as well. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, take care, and if in doubt, happy dance it out. Different Human Dimension.
You've been listening to A Different Human Dimension, a podcast about ADHD and mental health in general. As I mentioned at the start of the show, though, you can email xyzcic.scott@gmail.com if you want to get involved in the podcast. And thanks to all the guys that commented on the groups we posted in, and we'll be getting you on for guests and chatting a bit about your experiences with mental health and ADHD as well.